Qapla!
I'm going to take this opportunity, however, to suggest that we all hail heroic. That's all I'm saying.
Forgive me, Doctor. I'm receiving a number of distress calls. I don't doubt it.
Y'all remember to kiss your waitresses. Have a mighty fine night.
You come in peace, surrender or be destroyed. Here to make war, we surrender. Falsehood, important news are needed new people.
When the appointed hour arrives, the Marauders will deactivate their cloaking devices and begin transporting Klingon shock troops directly to the landing zone.
Landing zone? Where? Tell me.
Why not? Your feeble weapons will be useless against us. We will kill all your males and take your females to mate with.
All right. Now the Federation's taking over, whether you like it or not. You people, you've been running this planet like a seaport planet. From now on, it's going to be under one roof. You're going to run it like a business. That means you're going to make a profit.
Look at these 3 words written larger than the rest, with a special pride never written before, or since. Tall words, proudly saying, "We the people."
Hi, I'm Nicole DeBoer. I played Lieutenant Ezri Dax on DS9, and I welcome you to BirdOPrey5 channel. Hail Karoga.
Hello world, it's BirdOPrey5, Qapla, and welcome to a special presidential debate coverage for the final debate, October 22nd, 2020. Welcome, Jeff Franklin, to the panel.
Thank you, BirdOPrey5 X. Qapla.
Qapla. So I put in the link a couple of minutes ago for the source I'm using to watch the debate. It's the Right Side Broadcasting link. I'll put it in one more time. If anybody wants to have the same source I do, this way as I make comments as to what's going on, that's where I'll be listening from. Now, I don't think I can play the audio over the stream, and even if I could, I just don't want to at this point because of the way we have it set up. There's going to be plenty of ways to listen to the debate. Most of the TV networks have it, all the cable networks, tons of YouTube channels. It's PBS hosted, so whatever your local PBS channel is, they definitely have it. So that's probably the best way to listen or watch. Nephew O'Prey is asleep, so we're trying to keep it a little quiet. Of course, Sassy has other plans. Sassy got quite jealous today while Mom O'Prey was with Nephew O'Prey, and she started doing things she never did, like try to scratch at wiring and eat wires, which are quite bad. Bad for her. So we've got a couple minutes before the debate begins. Let me go back up through some of the chat. Dan23 says, some think on the news that this new Borat, about this new Borat and Trump, not exactly sure what it is. Well, what happened is apparently they got Rudy Giuliani, who is Donald Trump's personal attorney and the former mayor of New York City, in a hotel room. He thought he was getting lucky with a young woman, and then they came in with hidden cameras and shouted that she was only 15 years old. She was actually 24 years old. There was nothing illegal about it. it just showed him, well, let's face it. If a 24-year-old woman, said, "Hey, let's do it," I'd probably get pretty excited. He's a divorced man, and he did. He got excited. Sue him, but there's really nothing illegal about it. Yeah, it's not the best look, but who's really going to say no? Captain MKG says, "Get your beer and popcorn ready for this one." Captain Trax says, "BirdOPrey is late again, I see." BirdOPrey5 says, "Qapla all just over 10 minutes before starting."
I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt on this one, Bird. I don't think you're late.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. This one time.
That's great. One time is better than none. Cinnabon Bunny says, "Hello, hello, Cinnabon Bunny." Cinnabon Bunny, if you want, I sent you a link on Skype because I know you were upset that Anti-Tracker didn't ask you to be on tonight, but you have an invitation, Cinnabon, if you want to come up. Karoga invites the bunny nation, or the alpacas, whatever it is you represent. Resolute Germ says, "Hello all." Hello, Resolute Germ. Qapla. And again, I'm saying hello to myself. And I put the link to the debate. And yes. And then there's Jeff Franklin who said Qapla. Okay, the final debate. The music is starting. Cinnabon says, "No one wants to hear from you, Bob Fisher." I don't know who that is.
I don't either. It confused me.
I don't know. It's the third and final presidential debate moments away. Okay. We still have time. Captain Track says hello. Jeff says hi. Captain Track says hello to Cinnabon. Jeff says hi to Cinnabon. Cinnabon says hello. John Street says, "What's this a debate between the clone brothers, BirdOPrey5 versus 5 Prey O Bird, for who is the new ruler of robot hell?" I mean, Karoga. No. This is Donald Trump versus Joe Biden. Karoga Knight says, "Viva la Karoga." Yes, viva la Karoga, Karoga Knight. Yeah, don't ruin your night screaming at the moderator, says this guy I'm listening to. John Street says, "No sound, BirdOPrey." Damn it. Yeah, there's sound. Cinnabon says, "Sassy could be part dingo." Oi, Sassy, you're part dingo, I think. You're trying to warn us about koalas and roos or crocs. Captain MKG says, "Oh boy, time to get drinking." Drinking, yes.
It might make it easier.
It probably would. Resolute says, "It was a good reason. That was just a still photo." Oh, the Rudy Giuliani one? I didn't see the photo. 47 New York Times says, "Hello, young sir and Specs." Yeah, he means you too. Greg Butler. Hey, Joe. Qapla, Greg, from Facebook. Welcome. Most of the action's happening here on YouTube, Greg, if you want to come to the YouTube channel. I don't have the link to it right now. I got it now. Hold on. Let me put it in. This is the link to us on YouTube if you're interested. It's a lot more commenting going on YouTube than Facebook. But good to see you, Greg. Resolute Germ says, "It's from Borat, so the source is suspect, to say the least." Yeah, I mean, listen, if they've got a video or they have a photo, it probably happened like it's explained. It's shitty. It's probably illegal considering New York state law, but it's really not a scandal of any. It doesn't rise to scandalous levels. Plus, Giuliani's not even in politics anymore. Really, he's an attorney. He's not running for any office. Resolute Germ says it's from Borat. Yeah. Captain Trek says greetings, Captain Trek. Cinnamon Bunny says thank you, but Anti-Trekker crushes my soul. The dream is over. Oh, I'm sorry, Cinnabon. Josh reads it's time to watch BirdOPrey5, the best alpaca porn channel on YouTube. And Greg is drinking. Well, enjoy. Have a good time drinking, Greg. Josh reads BirdOPrey did that Futurama debate reference has gone over Bird's head. Jack Johnson or John Jackson. What is this? Oh no, the Exozone is going live. Son of a bitch. They're doing an Exozone tonight. Of all the nights, they don't cancel the Exozone. Well, I guess I'll have to watch it in the morning. Cool, put it up. Very cool, Greg. Very cool.
And the candidates have come on the stage.
Yes. I hope this guy shuts up. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no kidding.
Maybe I'll have to find a different stream. Okay, we'll see. He'll see it after. Okay. So each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer the first question. The debate commission will turn on their microphone only when it's their turn to answer. And they'll turn it off exactly when the 2 minutes have expired. And after that, both mics will remain on. But please speak one at a time.
Good luck with that one.
The fight against the coronavirus. The country is entering a dangerous new phase. More than 40,000 Americans are in the hospital tonight with COVID, including record amounts in Tennessee. At least 16,000 Americans have died since they last shared the stage. How will he lead the country during the next stage? To Donald Trump. He said 2.2 million people were expected to die. He closed up the greatest economy in the world to fight this horrible disease from China. It's a worldwide pandemic. It's all over. Spikes in Europe, and yes, we know the Slovakia, it's way up. Mortality rate is down 85%, much lower than almost any other country. He says we're fighting it hard. There's a spike in Florida, it's gone. There was a big spike in Texas, that's gone. Very big spike in Arizona, that's gone. Richie Poole, can you confirm? He's like, all the spikes will be gone. The vaccine is coming. It's ready. It's going to be announced within weeks. Operation Warp Speed. The military is going to distribute the vaccine. From personal experience, he was in the hospital. He had it. He got better. He had something that they gave him, a therapeutic. Some people say it was a cure. He was there for a short period of time. He got better very fast, or he wouldn't be there tonight. And now they say he's immune, whether it's for 4 months or a lifetime, nobody knows. More and more people are getting better. He has a problem. It's a worldwide problem. He's been congratulated by the heads of many countries for what they've been able to do. I wish they had a countdown timer for how much time he's used. Goggles and masks, gowns, and ventilators. We're making so many ventilators. It'll go away. Cinnabon, I had that same idea. Okay, so I guess he ended it right on time. Cinnabon said it would be hilarious if Trump just pulled out a bullhorn from the podium. So Biden says 220,000 Americans dead. Anyone who's responsible for that many deaths should not be remain as president. So he's blaming Donald Trump for every death. Every death is Donald Trump's fault. 1,000 deaths a day. And there's over 70,000 new cases per day. Is that true? 70,000 new cases a day? That doesn't sound right. The expectation is there'll be another 200,000 Americans dead between now and the end of the year. He said if we just wore the masks, we could save 100,000 lives. But it's not Trump's ability to force people to wear masks. And he says Trump still has no plan. It sounded like he just had a plan. He spoke for 2 minutes. He had a plan. He wants rapid testing. He'd have a plan. He would have national standards on how to open schools and businesses. Well, they already have standards on how to reopen. He said the New England Medicine Journal said for the first time ever, the way this president responded to the crisis has been tragic. So he will end this. He will make sure they have a plan. And remember, he's also going to cure cancer. So Trump says vaccine will be coming within weeks. Is that a guarantee? He says, no, it's not a guarantee, but it will be by the end of the year. But there are 2 companies he thinks within the end of the year. Johnson & Johnson and Moderna, Pfizer, and he has numerous others. And he's working with others in other countries, in particular Europe. She said, let me follow up with you. Says your own officials could take 2021 for enough Americans to get vaccinated. And the country will be wearing masks and distancing into 2022. So she said, is your timeline accurate? And Trump is saying, no, he thinks his timeline is more accurate. They don't understand the logistics. The military is going to distribute everything. It's very easy. He's going to have 100 million vials ready to go. And now they're asking for Biden's reaction. He says only 40% of Americans would agree to take the vaccine. Biden says, well, he'll make sure it's totally transparent. Everybody will be able to see it and look at it. This is the same fellow who told you it was going to end by Easter. Don't worry, we're going to end it by the summer. He's like, we're about to go into a dark winter. He has no clear plan and no prospect. No prospect that there's going to be a vaccine available before the middle of next year. Trump says, I don't think we have a dark winter. We're opening our country. We learned, we're studying, we understand the disease. When he closed and he banned China. Hey, LDG. Yeah, he was saying Biden was saying he was xenophobic. He did it too soon. Now he's saying he should have moved quicker. And Trump is saying Biden was months behind him. He ran the H1N1 swine flu. And it was a total disaster. It was less lethal. Had that had this kind of numbers, 700,000 people would be dead. How do you, I don't know how you get those numbers, but his own person who ran it for him, his chief of staff, said it was catastrophic. It was horrible. They didn't know what they were doing. And now he says how to do this. Resolute says Biden is starting off pretty dim. I think he forgot to take some of his kids' meth. Oh, Biden says he is xenophobic, but not because he's shut down access to China. And he's pissed that he let 44 people come home who were in China. He said that he was being transparent. He did virtually nothing, says Biden. Then he gets out of the hospital and saying it's all going to be over soon. There's not another scientist in the world that says it's going to be over soon. Trump says, I didn't say it's going to be over soon. We're learning to live with it. We can't all lock ourselves in the basement like Joe Biden. He obviously made a lot of money someplace. He's got something about living in a basement. He said he'd love to do himself in a basement or a beautiful room in the White House and go away for a year and a half, but he can't do that. Every meeting he had, and he met a lot of families, Gold Star families, military families. It'd be horrible to cancel everything. He caught it. He learned a lot. Great doctors. He recovered. 99.9 recover. 99% of people recover. We can't close our nation. Well, you're not going to have a nation. She said the CDC people said young people can get sick. Did he say they couldn't? So Biden wants to respond, learn to live with it. Biden says people are learning to die with it. You folks at home have an empty chair at the kitchen table in the morning. Well, the person who's touching where their husband or wife was is dying. They're learning to live with it. Is it really dangerous still? What should they do about the danger? And you say you take no responsibility. Trump says he takes full responsibility. It's not my fault it came here. It's China's fault. It's not Joe's fault either that it came here. It's China's fault. They kept it from going in the rest of China for the most part, but they didn't keep it from going out to the rest of the world, including Europe and ourselves. Biden says, when we knew it was coming, what did the president say? He said, don't worry, it's going to go away. Be gone by Easter. He said, maybe inject bleach. He said he was kidding, but people thought he was serious. Is that really Trump's fault if people think he was serious? And he didn't say inject bleach. He said, did you consider bleach? And he said, just to finish this, I was kidding on that. When he closed the country, he said he shouldn't have closed. Pelosi said the same thing. Nancy Pelosi was dancing in the streets of Chinatown, San Francisco. And he called me a xenophobic and a racist, he thinks, because he was closing it to China. Now he says he should have closed it earlier. Joe said he didn't say either of those things. Captain MKG says, I only have a beer. What a shame. People are learning to die with it. Resolute Germ says, Biden is looking like a bitter old man. No, he doesn't want to respond. Do you want to respond to that, Vice President? No. How do you not respond to that? John Street says, since two of you, BirdOPrey5, one should do Trump, Jeff Franklin, and Biden. Do you want to do that, Jeff?
No, I think you're doing a good job, Bird.
Okay. So, I don't know. Biden is trying to explain why shutting down the country, he should have did it differently. He should have been, who should he have been negotiating with? What? You going to negotiate with Nancy Pelosi? How is Nancy Pelosi going to fix this? So Biden hasn't ruled out more shutdowns, says the moderator. He says, we need standards. If we have a reproduction rate in a community that's above a certain level, everybody says slow up. More social distancing. Do not open bars. Do not open gymnasiums. Do not open the discotheques. That wasn't something he said. I made that up. Schools. Schools need a lot of money. They need new ventilation systems. They need smaller classes, more teachers. He's refused to support the money up to now. So he's saying, let's talk. So Trump needs to respond. He says, thanks, and I appreciate it. It's very nice. He says, all he's talking about is Joe. He's like, forget about him. The Democrat governors, Cuomo in New York, California, Pennsylvania, Democrats, they shut down so tight and they're dying. And he supports all these people. All he talks about is shut down. Trump says, we're not going to shut down. We've got to open our schools. He's like, example, I have a young son. He also tested positive, but he talked to the doctor a second time. He was fine. It just went away. Young people, it just goes away. So he says, just today, Boston became the second city entirely online after a coronavirus spike. What's the thing to tell parents who are afraid to send their kids? He wants to open the school. Transmittal rate to teachers is very small. He's like, we have to open our country or we're not going to have a country. We can't keep the country closed. It's a massive country with a massive economy. People are committing suicide, depression, alcohol, drugs, abuse. He's going to shut down the virus. Biden 2020 is the Cinnabon. Trump is saying the cure cannot be worse than the virus itself. Resolute says Biden is already getting confused. And Trump is saying Biden will close down the country if one person says it. Thomas is BirdOPrey is CNN making stuff up. Biden says we need to be able to chew gum and walk at the same time. Thomas is funny. The Biden ads I see say Trump wants to keep schools closed. Well, now he wants to keep schools open. Okay. The point is, don't vote for Trump. The point is, vote for Biden, Thomas. Josh Street says, Thomas, yes, CNN, Kuroga News Network makes things up all the time. He says, to all the teachers, not that many of you are going to die. Don't worry about it. He's being sarcastic. So Trump says, if you look at New York, it's a ghost town. It's a ghost town. When you talk about plexiglass, these are restaurants that are dying, businesses with no money. Putting up plexiglass is unbelievably expensive, and it's not the answer. What are you going to sit there in a cubicle wrapped in plastic? These are businesses that are dying, Joe. You can't do that to people. Take a look at New York. That would happen to my wonderful city. I loved it for so many years. It's dying. Everyone's leaving New York. Biden says, look at how New York has turned the curve down. He doesn't look at it like blue states and red states. They're all the United States. And look at the states that are having such a spike in the coronavirus. They're the red states. Oh my God. Oh my God. And it's hilarious. Biden just says, I don't look at states like blue states and red states like him. And in the same sentence, he's like, but look at all the states that are having the spikes. They're the red states. Oh my God. That is hilarious. He wins the night. He wins the night. He says New York has lost more than 40,000. What? She says spike. He says, look at what's happening in Pennsylvania, where they had to close. Look what's happening with your friend in Michigan. Her husband is the only one that's allowed to do anything. It's like a prison. It was just ruled unconstitutional. Look at North Carolina. They're having spikes and they've been closed. And they're getting killed financially. He says, you can't let that happen, Joe. We've got to open up. We understand the disease. We have to protect our seniors. We have to protect our elderly, especially our seniors with diabetes and heart problems. And we'll protect them with the best testing in the world. He says that's why we have so many cases. So this week, Trump called Fauci, the nation's best known infectious disease expert, a disaster. If you're not listening, and Trump, who are you listening to? Trump says, I'm listening to all of them. He's like, Fauci did say, hey, don't wear a mask. He did say, don't be a problem. Trump says, I think he's a Democrat. It's okay. He says, we're not going to have a problem at all. He's not knocking him. He's like, nobody knew. Nobody knew what it was going to be, what it was going to become. We've learned a lot. But Anthony said, don't wear masks. Now he wants us to wear masks. Anthony said, if you look back, his exact words, this is no problem. This is going to go away soon. So he made some mistakes. He happened to be a good person. So Biden's response, I think that the president knew in January and he didn't tell the American people. He told it was a serious virus that spread in the air and much worse than the flu. He went on record, said to one of the colleagues that he knew how dangerous it was, but he didn't want to tell us. He didn't want us to panic. And Biden says Americans don't panic. Oh, really? Oh, really? Did you try to buy toilet paper? Did you try to buy toilet paper? So the government provides plexiglass to every restaurant. Somebody went to Wall Street. Now Trump is saying Biden takes all the money from Wall Street. He doesn't take it. And he said, Biden's raised a ton of money. He said he could raise so much money as president. He could call the head of Wall Street, the head of every company in America. He'd blow away every record, but he doesn't want to do that because it puts him in a bad position. And then Biden brings up Wall Street. He's the one who shouldn't bring up Wall Street. He's the one that takes money from Wall Street. He could blow away their records. Trump says, we don't need money. We have plenty of money. We beat Hillary Clinton with a tiny fraction of the money. Biden says the average contribution is $43. Cinnabon says my YouTube app keeps freezing the chat. Son of a bitch. It's freezing for Jeff Franklin too. They're probably really busy.
Yeah, probably.
On a computer browser. Cat MKG says YouTube doesn't want you to listen. Yeah. Thomas says, why do debate stages always look the same every year? Why can't they redesign it? Yeah, why can't they have like YouTube videos playing behind the candidates? Or an eagle decapitating a snake or something. Resolution says the moderator has officially tagged in. Russia's been involved. China's been involved. The Ukraine's been involved. Oh, he didn't say Ukraine. Thomas says Trump mentioned the virus in the State of the Union speech in January. Thomas, stop bringing facts into this. Josh Reed says, so BirdOPrey5X, your best friend Biden won the Golden Carogan for lying performance. And Thomas Bond says, no problems on my iPhone. Biden says, the point is this, we have foreign countries trying to interfere in the outcome of our election. His own national security advisor told him what's happening with his buddy. He says, I shouldn't. His buddy, Rudy Giuliani, he's being used as a Russian pawn. He's being fed information that's Russian and not true. And then what happens? Nothing happens. Really? You're bringing up Rudy Giuliani? Biden's going to bring up Rudy Giuliani? He doesn't understand why this president's not willing to take on Putin when Putin's paying bounties to kill American soldiers in Afghanistan? Why doesn't he do it? It's worth asking the question. Why isn't that being done? Any country that interferes with us will pay the price because they're affecting our sovereignty. No, he's got to respond. No, let the man respond. She says no. She's going to ask a question and give him 2 minutes. So Joe got $3.5 million from Russia, and it came through Putin because he was very friendly with the former mayor of Moscow. The mayor of Moscow's wife, he got $3.5 million. His family got $3.5 million. Someday you're going to have to explain why you got $3.5 million. Trump says he never got any money from Russia. You don't get any money from Russia. About your thing last night, he's talking to the moderator. He knows all about that. But one thing that's common to both of them, they both want you to lose. There's been nobody tougher to Russia. Nobody tougher on Russia than Trump. Between the sanctions, all what he's done with NATO, he's got the NATO countries to put up an extra 130 billion, going to 420 billion a year to guard against Russia. He says, well, he was selling pillows and sheets. He was selling tank busters to Ukraine. There's been nobody tougher on Russia than Donald Trump. And he'll tell you they were so mad. They took over the submarine port. You remember that. During your term, during you and Obama, they took over what should have been Ukraine. You gave it to them. You handed it to them. You were getting a lot of money from Russia. They were paying you a lot of money, and they probably still are. But what came out today, it's even worse. All of the emails, the horrible emails, the kind of money you were raking in, you and your family. And Joe, you were vice president when some of this was happening. It should never have happened. And I think you owe an explanation to the American people. Why is it? In a news conference a little while ago, who was supposed to work with you and your family, what he said was damning. Regardless of me, I think you have to clean it up and talk to the American people. Maybe you can do it right now. He says, I've not taken a penny from any foreign source ever in my life. He says, we learned that this president paid 50 times the tax in China with a secret bank account in China and does business in China. And he's talking about me taking money. Biden says he's not taking a single penny from any country whatsoever, ever. Number one. Number two, this is a president, and Biden says he's released 22 years of his tax returns. Biden says you have not released a single solitary year of your tax returns. What are you hiding? Why are you unwilling? The foreign countries are paying you a lot. Russia's paying you a lot. China's paying you. Your hotels, your businesses all around the country. He means all around the world. Yeah, all around the world. Chile's building a new road to a golf course. Release your tax returns. Stop. So Trump is responding. He called his accountants. We're under audit. He says he'll release them as soon as he can. He'll show how successful his companies are. He says, much more important, $750. He's like, what's with the $750? You prepaid tens of millions of dollars. He prepaid his tax tens of millions of dollars. He prepaid because at some point they think it's an estimate. They think he may have to pay more tax. He prepaid it. He says it wasn't written wherever they $750. He said $750 he thinks is a filing fee. He prepaid millions and millions of dollars in taxes. Number one. Number two, he doesn't make money from China. You do. He doesn't make money from Ukraine. You do. He doesn't make money from Russia. You made $3.5 million, Joe. And your son gave you. You even have a statement that you have to give 10% to the big man. You're the big man. He says, maybe you're not, but you're the big man, I think. Your son says we have to give 10% to the big man. Joe, what's it all about? Yeah, let him respond. So he says as soon as the audit's over, he can release the taxes. And Trump says he gets treated worse than the Tea Party gets treated. The IRS treats him horribly. He said they had a deal; it was all settled till he decided to run for president. He gets treated very unfairly.
The president doesn't look too good right now. He's on the defensive.
Well, he's being tag teamed by both.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah, questions about foreign entanglements. Okay, Biden has responded. He's been saying it for 4 years. He says, just show us. Just show us. Are they going to mention Iran trying to hurt Trump by sending fake emails? Apparently not. Biden says you're either not paying taxes or you're paying taxes that are so low. Resolute Germ says the so-called voting interference is a joke. It amounts to spam emails. Josh Street says, why did Trump say he's been tougher on Kuroga? I didn't hear him say anything about Kuroga. Resolute says, no, Biden launders it through his kid. Yeah. Jeff says, Trump is on the defensive. Mueller and 18 angry Democrats and FBI agents all over the place spent $48 million. They went through everything he had, including his tax returns, and they found absolutely no collusion and nothing wrong. $48 million. He guarantees that if he spent $1 million on Joe, he could find plenty wrong. Because the kind of things you've done, the kind of money your family's taken, your brother made money in Iraq. Millions of dollars, and your other brother made fortunes all through you. And you have houses all over the place. You live very well. Biden's laughing. So now they're saying there have been questions, Biden. There have been questions about the work your son is doing in China and Ukraine. Was anything he did inappropriate or unethical? Joe says nothing was unethical. With regard to Ukraine, I have this whole question as to whether or not he was on the board of Burisma, a company that he had done something wrong. Yet every single solitary person, when he was going through his impeachment, said that Biden did his job impeccably. He carried out U.S. policy. But they weren't questioning you, Biden. How does your son get on a board and make $50,000 a month when he has zero ability to do anything except smoke meth? Your son is a drug addict and a loser, and he's making $50,000 a month from Ukraine. There's a problem. There's a problem there. Nobody else. Biden says nobody else has made money from China except Trump. Trump says his son didn't have a job for a long time, was sadly no longer in the military service. He won't get into it. I mean, he got out. He got kicked out. As soon as he became vice president, Burisma, not the best reputation in the world, they paid him $183,000 a month. Well, I think that's a little more. And they gave him a $3 million upfront payment. He had no experience. It's 100% dishonest. So of course, the moderator is ignoring that, and Biden says there's no basis for that. And so I said, now Trump, since you've taken office, you've never divested from your business. Report does indicate your company has a bank account in China. He says, I have many bank accounts. They're all listed and they're all over the place. He's a businessman doing business. The bank account you're referring to is listed. Everybody knows about it. It was from 2013. It was open in 2013 and closed in 2015. Then he was thinking about doing a deal in China, like lots of other people. And he decided he's not going to do it. He had an account open and he closed it. And then, unlike him, where he's vice president, he does business, He then decided to run for president. After that, he closed it before he even ran for president, let alone became president. Big difference. He was the vice president of the United States, and his son and his brothers were getting rich like a vacuum cleaner, sucking up money. And of course, they cut him off. And she does want to ask Biden about China. Let's talk about China more broadly. Says China. Trump says China should pay for not being fully transparent. Would you make China pay if you were president? What would that look like? He says he'd make China play by international rules. Not like what China's doing, not like Trump's doing. He's caused the deficit with China to go up, not down. He'd say in order to do business with China, you'd have to have a partner in China that's 51%. What? China would have to pay by international rules as well. All right, because I remember them doing that during the Obama administration. He's going to fly through the South China Sea. He says, "Well, you said we just flew a B." He just said he's going to fly B-51 bombers through the South China Sea, and then he said, "Well, we just did it," which means Trump is doing it. Resolute says Joe is about to go off script. He says we need to have the rest of our friends saying to our China, these are the rules. You play by the rules, or you pay the price for not playing by them. Isn't that exactly what Trump did with all his tariffs? With all of his tariffs, that's exactly what he did. So Trump has to respond to that, he says. He said his son walked out with $1.5 billion from China after 10 minutes of being in Air Force Two. And you said your family wants to make $10 million a year for introductions. She's cutting Trump off. She's like, what specifically are you going to do to China? Trump is saying China is paying. They're paying billions and billions of dollars. What? Biden says it's taxpayers' money. He's like, the taxpayers is called China. He's like, you know what they did? They devalued their currency and they paid up. You know who got the money? Our farmers. Because they were targeted. You never charged them anything. I charged them 25% on dump steel because they were killing the steel business. We were not going to have a steel industry. So she's shutting him up. She's like, okay. Now she's going back to Biden. Every time Trump gets momentum, she cuts him off. He doesn't want to talk about the substantive issues. Yes, he is. He's talking about the substantive issues. Biden says it's not about his family and my family. It's about your family. No, it's about your family, Joe, if your family's making millions of dollars. So he's pissed because our family can't get new tires because they got to wait a month because they're being made in America. The middle-class families in Scranton are the last things he wants to talk about. Trump, the moderator, wants to talk about North Korea. Trump says, let's get off the China thing. And he's a family relative, typical politician. Trump says he's not a typical politician. That's why he got elected.
For sure.
Now we're going to talk about North Korea. So he says you talked about beautiful talks with him or long-range missile tests. Trump's touted all this. And why, and yet they're still talking about their nuclear arsenal. So he said, do you see that as a betrayal? So he was supposed to have a 15-minute conversation. It was over an hour. Obama, he had a discussion with Obama. He said that the biggest problem was North Korea that they would have they'd be in a nuclear war. He's a difficult guy, but he probably has the same feelings about him. There's no war. They have a good relationship. He said a couple of weeks ago he broke into a certain area, and they said there were going to be problems, and he said no, there isn't. He's not going to do that. Seoul is 25 miles away. BirdOPrey, Biden says the B-51, but the ex-B-51 hasn't flown since 1949. South Korea is very happy with the advances with the North. Advances with the North? Why are you moving so Biden saying North Korea is asking, why are you moving your missile defense so close? Why are you doing military maneuvers with South Korea? He says, because North Korea is a problem, and they continue to do it so they can control them. So we're going to continue to do it to control them so they can't hurt us. So he said Trump has legitimized North Korea, talked about his good buddy who's a thug, and he talks about now we're better off. But now they have more capable missiles. They're more easy to reach American targets. So the moderator asked Biden, he said, is there any conditions you would meet with Kim Jong, whatever? He said only in the condition that there would be a nuclear-free zone. Trump says they tried to meet with him. They wouldn't do it. He didn't like Obama. He wouldn't meet with them. They tried. He said, North Korea, we're not in a war. We have a good relationship. Trump says people don't understand. People having a good relationship with other, wow, Biden just said we had a good relationship with Hitler before he invaded Europe. The reason he wouldn't meet with Obama is because Obama said they were going to talk about denuclearization. So she's letting Biden talk. She cut Trump off 4 times. Trump says he left me a mess. Obama left him a mess. North Korea was a mess. She keeps cutting him off. We got a lot of questions. We had a very dangerous period the first few months. They left us a mess. And he said Obama would be the first to say it was the single biggest problem. So he wants to move on to American families and the economy. One of the most important issues is health care. So we have a key vote on Amy Barrett. Over 20 million Americans get their health care through the Affordable Care Act, and his administration wants to overturn it. If they do overturn it, 20 million Americans could lose their insurance almost overnight. What would you do? He has 2 minutes uninterrupted. So Trump says he's already done something he thought was impossible. He terminated the individual mandate. It's the worst part of Obamacare, where you have to pay a fortune to have the privilege of not paying for bad health insurance. He says it's gone. Now it's in court. Then he made a decision to run it as well as he can. Run it as well as he can. He could have gone the other route and made everybody unhappy. He's like, they ran it. Premiums are down. Everything's down. He's like, the problem is, no matter how good you run it, it's no good. He wants to terminate it. He says, if we don't win, then we'll have to run it. But either way, we'll run it. If he loses in the court, they'll have to run it, but they'll run it better. But what he says is, anyway, pre-existing conditions are always going to stay. He will always protect people with pre-existing conditions. He'd like to terminate with Obamacare, come up with beautiful new health care. The Democrats would come up with it, and he thinks we might even win the House by then. Trump thinks he's going to win the House. come up with better health care, protecting people with pre-existing conditions. We have 180 million people out there with great private health care, far more than Obamacare. Joe Biden is going to terminate all of those policies. People that love their health care, people who have been successful, middle income. He's got 180 plans, 180 million families under what he wants to do, which is basically socialized medicine. There won't be a choice. I want to terminate 180 million plans. He's done an incredible job. Did they cut? They cut his microphone. They cut his microphone. So they're asking Biden what's going to happen if it's ruled unconstitutional. He says he's going to pass it with a public option. It'll become Biden care. I'm sorry, Jeff. Were you about to say something?
Well, I'll tell you how he'll get around that. He'll stack the court.
Yeah. So he's going to reduce the premiums and drug prices by making sure there's competition. That doesn't exist now. Trump already reduced a lot of drug prices. The first time I've seen drug prices go down. This is the idea that he wants to eliminate private insurance. The reason why it's such a fight with 20 people for the nomination is he supports private insurance. Not one single person with private insurance would lose their insurance under his plan. Nor did they under Obamacare. Yes, they did. Yes, they did. You're lying. That's like saying if you can keep your doctor. You're lying, Joe. They did lose their plans. So he's saying that there's no way Trump can protect pre-existing conditions. He says we're going to get the pre-existing condition plan the same time we get the infrastructure plan. He's still got a few more minutes. He knows she's getting anxious. He's already cost the American people, because of his terrible handling of the COVID virus, 10 million people have lost their private insurance. And he wants to take away 22 million more people who have an Obamacare, and 110 million people with pre-existing conditions. And all the people from COVID are going to have pre-existing conditions. She has a follow-up with Biden. He's accusing you of wanting socialized medicine. What do you have for people who are afraid that it moves the people to a government-run healthcare program? He says it's ridiculous. Just because it's a public option, that makes it a socialist plan? Yes. He says the difference is me and the president, I don't think healthcare is a privilege. I think it's a right. He's very proud of his plan. It's got endorsed by all the major labor unions. Now, you've lied about this before, Joe. You've lied about unions who supported you, who then said they didn't the next day. Like, how many of you at home are rolling around in bed tonight worried about what's going to happen if you get sick because you lost your health insurance because your company went under? He says, we have to provide health insurance for people. So Trump says he was there for 47 years. He didn't do it. He was there for 8 years as vice president. And it's not that it was 25 years ago. It was 3.25 years ago, 3.75 years ago. He didn't do anything. He wanted socialized medicine. It's not that he wants it, his vice president. She's more liberal than Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders wants it. The Democrats want it. You're going to have socialized medicine. Just like with fracking. He says, we're going to stop fracking. We're going to stop fracking. Then he gets to Pennsylvania and he lies. He says, we're going to have fracking. And you never asked that question. Why didn't you ask the question? By the way, I respect very much how you're handling this. And Biden jumped in. It's the same thing with socialized medicine. Biden's response is people deserve to have affordable health care, period. The Biden care proposal will affect it, lower premiums. It's going to cost some money. It's going to cost $750 billion over 10 years. You got to buy into cheaper plans, lower premiums, deal with unexpected billing, and have low drug prices drop significantly. He hasn't done a thing for anybody on healthcare, which is a lie. So Trump says when he talks about public option, he's talking about socialized medicine. Trump, you should be defending your record, Trump. You should be defending your record. You've already done a lot of things. Trump is not defending himself. Biden says Trump is a very confused guy. He thinks he's running against somebody else. He's running against Joe Biden. Biden beat all those other people. Resolute Germ says, I've been on those ACA plans. They really suck. They certainly do. They cost a fortune, and then they have a ridiculous, what's that called? Not a deposit. A ridiculous, amount you have to spend before you save any money. You would go broke. You would go broke either way. Biden just called people idiots if you're not on a government plan. And yeah, she's trying to get Biden to clear up that statement. He says, Trump says if he's elected, the stock market will go up. If Biden's elected, the stock market will crash. And Biden says the idea that the stock market is booming is his only measure of what's happening. Where Biden comes from in Scranton is the stock market is not the measure of the economy. It's his only measure. What happens to ordinary people? So, okay, she does finally cut off Biden. Now Trump is talking about 401ks being through the roof. And he doesn't come from Scranton. He lived there for a short period of time. And then he left. He says the people of Pennsylvania will show you that. Okay. So the moderator says, as of tonight, more than 12 million people are out of work. And 8 million Americans have fallen into poverty, and more are going every day. And those hit hardest are women and people of color. They see Washington fighting over a relief bill. Mr. President, why haven't you gotten them the help they need? He says, because Nancy Pelosi doesn't want to approve it. He says, but I do. She says, but you're the president. He's like, I am. But do you not know how the government works, lady? Nancy doesn't want to approve it. Trump says we are ready, willing, and able. We've already approved 3 plans. And they've gone through, including the Democrats. This one, she doesn't want to approve it. It's near the election. She thinks it helps her politically. Biden says the Republican leader in the Senate says he can't pass it. He doesn't have the Republican votes. Trump says if we make a deal, the Republicans will pass it. So he says, okay, Biden, you're the leader of the Democrats party. Why haven't you pushed the Democrats? He says they pushed this act since the beginning of the summer. The HEROES Act has been sitting there. Yes, deductible. That's what I meant. Yep. Cinnabon says, I think the moderator's hoping to get her hair sniffed later. It was a bailing out all the Democrat cities and states. It was a way of getting a lot of money from our people's pockets to get people who come in illegally. He says, we're going to take care of everything. He'd love to help them. But what that does, everybody from all over the world will start pouring into the country. This was a way of taking care of them. Spending on things that had nothing to do with COVID. It was a big bailout for badly run Democrat cities and states. He's running as a proud Democrat. I don't see red states and blue states. I see the United States. But those red states have a lot of viruses. Oh, Joe. They allowed the federal government to deficit spend to compensate for the United States of America. She asks, is this the right time to ask them to raise the minimum wage? Biden says, yep. Says, yeah, because we're going to have to bail them out too. Or bail out the small business. So basically, we've got to bail out everybody. I got to have a drink of water.
You need it, Bird.
I do.
These guys.
Trump is saying it should be a state option. Every state's different. And it's true, it is a state option. How are you helping small businesses when you're forcing wages? It's been proven to happen. When you do that,
true.
your small businesses fire people. He said recently he would consider raising it. He says, I would consider it to an extent in a second administration, but not to a level that's going to put all these businesses out of business. He's like, I know different places. Alabama, $15 is not so bad. Other states, $15 would be ludicrous. Who's making $6 an hour? Isn't the federal minimum wage above $6 an hour now?
I think it's about $7.
Huh?
I think it's about $7.
Yeah. No one's making $6 an hour. There's no evidence when you raise minimum wage, businesses go out of business. I don't know if Joe's ever seen New York, but restaurants close all the time when they raise minimum wage.
Can't they get more than one camera angle?
I know. This is PBS. Oh, they can't find the parents of 500 children. Well, because the children were brought here without their parents. So how are we supposed to find their parents? Or their parents left. Their parents, they were supposed to be at an address and they left the address. So how are we supposed to know where they are? So Trump is saying they built the cages. Yep. There was a picture in a newspaper with these horrible cages. President Trump built them. And it was determined they were built in 2014 under him. So he says, do you have a plan to reunite the kids? He says, yes, we're trying hard. But a lot of these kids come without the parents. They come with cartels and gangs and coyotes. These 500 plus kids came with parents, according to Biden. How do you know this, Biden? He said they separated them at the border to make it a disincentive to come here. We're really strong. He says coyotes didn't bring them over. Their parents, bro. You don't know who was with them. He said they got separated from their parents. It makes us a laughing stock. Who's laughing? Who is laughing? Trump says they did it. We changed the policy. They built the cages. Who built the cages, Joe? Who built the cages, Joe? Joe won't answer. He says their parents, the kids were ripped from their arms and separated. And now they can't find over 500 sets of those parents. And those kids are alone, nowhere to go. It's criminal. Trump says they went down with reporters and everything. The kids are so well taken care of in facilities that were so clean. Who built the cages? Ask him who built the cages. She won't ask. She won't ask. Said the Obama administration did fail to deliver immigration reform. It was a key progress. It also presided over record immigration. Why should they trust immigration now? He said, we made a mistake. It took too long to get it right. He'll be president, not vice president. Within 100 days, he's going to send to Congress a pathway to citizenship for over 11 million undocumented people. And all those so-called dreamers, those DACA kids, they're going to be immediately certified to be able to stay in this country and put on a path to citizenship. The idea of being sent home by this guy is they're going to a country they've never seen. This guy, yeah. Imagine you're 5 years old, your parents are taking you across the Rio Grande River, and it's illegal. Oh no, Mom, leave me there. They've been here. So 20,000 of them are first responders taking care of people. We owe them. Trump says they had 8 years to do what he said he was going to do. He said he changed it without having specific. We got rid of catch and release. We got rid of a lot of horrible things they put in. He had 8 years as vice president. He did nothing except build cages to keep the children in. He says wrong. Catch and release. If you had a family that came across, they were arrested. They were given a date to show up for a hearing. They were released. He said, and guess what? They showed up for the hearing. It's the first president that anyone seeking asylum has to do in another country. It's never happened before. Well, good. You come to the United States and you make your case. You make it here. He said they're sitting in squalor on the other side of the river. Trump says shows that he has no understanding of immigration and the laws. Catch and release is a disaster. A murderer would come in, a rapist would come in, a very bad person would come in. We would take their name, we'd release them into our country, and then you say they come back. He said less than 1% of the people released come back. We have to send ICE out and Border Patrol to find them. Come back in 2 years, 3 years. We'll give you a court date. And you need Perry Mason. They don't come back. They never come back. Only the really, hate to say it, those with the lowest IQ might come back. Oh my God. This is what you're telling is simply not true, says Biden. He said we don't have to worry about it because they terminated it. So you got 525 kids who don't know where their parents are going to be. Oh, race in America. Here we go. She wants to talk about how black and brown Americans experience race in America. Kind of is the talk. It happens regardless of income. Parents have to tell themselves, their kids, about how they're going to be experienced. They're going to be. The talk is about how parents have to talk to their kids about they could become targets of the police, regardless of their income. So Biden says his daughter's a social worker. She's written a lot about it, her graduate degree. Of course she has. One of the reasons he started working with 90% African Americans. What? So Biden says he told her daughter if she's pulled over, put both hands on the wheel and don't put your hands near the glove compartment because the police might shoot you. But black parents have to teach their kids not to have a hoodie on when they cross the street. Hands on top of wheel. Yes, sir. No, sir. Because you're a victim. Whether you're a person making $300,000 a year or someone who's on food stamps. Either way, police are going to kill you. He didn't say that. But he said either way, there's institutional racism. All men and women are created equal. We have never, ever lived up to it. We've been moving the needle further and further to inclusion. This is not to exclusion. And Trump, he says Trump is the first president to come along and say that's the end of that. He says we need better health care, better education, better access to schooling, better access to opportunity to borrow money. And he's laid out a clear plan on how to do it. Of course he has. So you just said it doesn't matter on their wealth. So why would you say accumulating wealth is going to solve the problem? He just said it didn't matter, the wealth. Okay, so he says, Trump, do you understand why his parents fear for their children? Trump says, yes, I do. And again, he's been in government for 47 years, and he hasn't done a thing except for the super predator bill he passed. He said it's super predators, and they've not lived it down. 1994 crime bill, the super predators bill. No one has done more for the black community than Donald Trump, with the exception of Abraham Lincoln. Possible exception of Abraham Lincoln. Nobody has done what he's done. Criminal justice reform. Obama and Joe didn't do it. He doesn't even think they tried. He said they might have wanted to do it, but if you would have seen the arms he had to twist, it wasn't easy. It wasn't a pretty picture. Everybody knows it, including some liberal people. They cried in the Oval Office. 2 weeks later, they're out saying we have to defeat him. Prison reform. Opportunity zones. An idea from a senator, Tim Scott. The black and Hispanic communities are the biggest beneficiaries. Historically, black colleges and universities. After 3 years of coming office, he loves some of the guys. What are you guys doing after 3 years? Why do you keep coming back? He says, we have no funding. He says, you don't have to come back every year. He's like, yeah, we have to do because Obama would never give him long-term funding. He gave him 10-year long-term funding and more money than they asked for. And he says, I think you need more. He said, the only bad part about this is I might never see you again. We became friendly, but he saved colleges and universities. Okay, his response. Biden says he never, ever said what he accused him of saying, super predator. He's saying after this crime bill been in law for a while, Trump said the problem with the crime bill is there's not enough people in jail. He says it's on his website, the date he said it. He talked about marauding gangs and people are going to maraud these cities. He's a guy who who pushed for the Central Park 5 got the death penalty, even though they were innocent, although they were all accused and they were all convicted. He didn't know they weren't guilty. Everybody thought they were guilty. So Biden says they commuted over 1,000 people's sentences. So he said the federal prison system was reduced by 38,000 under his administration. And Biden said there should be no minimal mandatories. So he's going to offer money to states to change their laws to eliminate minimum mandatories. No one should be going to jail for drug problems. So there should be no minimum mandatory sentence for pedophiles, no minimum mandatory for rapists, no minimum mandatory for murder. There should be no minimum mandatory sentence for murder, Joe. Why? Why should there be no minimum murder? No minimum mandatory sentence for murder. So Trump said if he thought that they did a good job, he wouldn't have ran. He says he ran because of you. He's like, I hope he does look at me. You know who I am. You know who he is. You know my character. You know his character.
Biden's character is not that great.
Trump said this is true about China, Ukraine, Iran. You're a corrupt politician. Says, don't talk about that you're an innocent politician. The laptop from hell. She wants to talk about race. Resolute says Biden clearly doesn't remember New York in 2000. What are you talking about? 5 former heads of the CIA is what he's saying is a bunch of garbage. What are you talking about? Nobody believes it except him and Rudy Giuliani. So he's saying the laptop is Russia hoax? Is that where you're going? So is that where you're going, says Trump. Answer the question. Trump says, there you go, have to be kidding. Here we go again with Russia. So since Trump, you've described Black Lives Matter as a hate movement, and you shared a white supremacist video with your followers. You said the first time you ever heard of Black Lives Matter, they were chanting pigs in a blanket, talking about police. Fry them like bacon. He said that was a horrible thing. They were marching down the street. That was his first glimpse of Black Lives Matter. He thought it was a terrible thing. And trying to hear his relationship with all people. He says great relationships with all people. He's the least racist person in this room. He said, what do you say to Americans who are concerned by the rhetoric? He says, I don't know what to say. He's done all this stuff. He's took care of black colleges. He's done prison reform. He doesn't know what to say. They can say anything they want. They can say anything. It makes me sad. I'm the least racist person in this room. He's looking at the audience. He can't even see the audience. It's so dark. I don't care in the audience, but he's the least racist person in the room. Okay, Biden, why are you more racist? What did he say? Did he say Abraham Lincoln here is one of the most racist presidents we've had in modern history? Did he mean to say Donald Trump and he said Abraham Lincoln?
I didn't catch that, Bird. Maybe somebody in chat caught it.
the poor boys. Now he mispronounced Proud Boys as poor boys. He's got a dog whistle as big as a foghorn.
Biden's crumbling.
You said you were Abraham Lincoln. He said, not since Abraham Lincoln. And he said, no, not since Abraham Lincoln. So Biden did call him Abraham Lincoln. Trump said, I said not since Abraham Lincoln. He says, you've done nothing other than the crime bill, which put tens of thousands of black men, mostly, in jail. Biden's breaking down. This is the breakdown. It's unraveling. Crime bills he contributed to resulted in tens of thousands of black men in prison for small amounts of drugs. He said in the 80s, we passed 100%. All 100% of senators passed a bill on how to deal with drugs. It was a mistake. He's been trying to change it since. Now he's saying we shouldn't send anyone to jail for a pure drug offense. They should be going into treatment across the board. That's what we should be spending money on. That's why he set up drug courts, that they were never funded by Republicans. They shouldn't be going to jail for drug or alcohol problems. They should be going to treatment. That's what we've been trying to do. That's what he's going to get done. Because he sees it was a mistake to pass those laws. But they were not in the crime bill. So Trump says, so why didn't he get it done? Why didn't he get it done? That's what I'm going to do when I become president. He said, you were vice president along with Obama for 8 years. Why didn't you get it done? You had 8 years to get it done. Now you're saying you're going to get it done because you're all talk and no action. He says, we got 38,000 prisoners released in federal prison. Trump said you got nothing done. And over 1,000 people given clemency. He said, we're the ones that put in legislation to look at how police departments are conducting themselves. They began the process. We lost an election. That's why he's running to win back the election. He's saying, why didn't you do it in the 8 years? Why didn't you do it in the 8 years? You put tens of thousands of mostly black young men in prison. Now you're saying you're going to undo it. Why didn't you get it done yet? 8 years with Obama. It's just because you're all talk and no action. He said we had a Republican Congress. Not for the whole time. That's the answer. We had a Republican Congress. He says sometimes you got to talk them into it, Joe. He's like, that's what I did with criminal justice reform. I had to talk Democrats into it.
Oh boy, climate change.
Climate change. Why is this even in the debate? How would they combat climate change and support job growth? 2 minutes for Donald Trump. They have a trillion trees program. They have different programs. He loves the environment. He wants the cleanest crystal clear water, the cleanest air. They have the best, lowest numbers in carbon emissions, which is a big standard, which Obama used to go with all the time. I haven't heard Joe use it because I'm not sure he understands what it means.
Wow.
We have the best carbon emission years that we've had in 35 years under this administration. They're working so well. But what we can't do, look at how filthy China is. Look at Russia. Look at India. It's filthy. Oh, man. The air is filthy. The Paris Accord, we took us out because we were going to have to spend trillions of dollars, and we were treated very unfairly. When they put us in, they did it very unfairly. He's not going to sacrifice tens of millions of jobs, thousands and thousands of companies because of the Paris Accord. It was so unfair. China doesn't kick in until 2030. Russia goes back to a low standard, and we kick in right away. It would have destroyed our businesses. We have done an incredible job environmentally. We have the cleanest air, the cleanest water, and the best carbon emission standards that we've seen in many, many years. And we haven't destroyed our industries. 2 minutes to Biden uninterrupted. Climate change, climate warning, global warming, an existential threat to humanity, and a moral obligation. We're told by leading scientists we don't have much time. We're going to pass the point of no return in 8 to 10 years. For what he reduced a lot of regulation to clean up the climate. And yet we still have much better climate emissions, much less emissions than we had. So Biden says he was willing to get all the environmental organizations as well as, I don't know, people worried about jobs to support his plan. I doubt that. It will create millions of new good paying jobs. They're going to invest. They're investing in 50,000 charging stations on the highway so we can own the electric car market of the future. We're going to see to it. We can take 4 million existing buildings and 2 billion existing homes and retrofit them so they don't leak as much energy, saving hundreds of billions of barrels of oil in the process and creating significant jobs. How does that create jobs? It creates millions of jobs. It's going to clean the environment. Yeah, it's been 8 to 10 years for 20 years now. Indeed. Biden says that his plan is going to create more jobs than Trump's. He said very clearly $6,500 will be taken away from families under his plan. His plan's an economic disaster, says Trump. You know who developed it? AOC +3. They know nothing about the climate. She's got a good line of stuff, but she knows nothing about the climate. They're all hopping through hoops for AOC +3. He said, the plan goes $120 million. If we had the best year in our country for 120 years, we wouldn't come close to it. They want to make bigger windows into smaller windows. If you had no windows, it would be a lovely thing. It's the craziest plan anybody's ever seen. This wasn't done by smart people. This wasn't done by anybody, frankly. He doesn't even know. They want to spend $100 trillion. Just the real number. They want $100 trillion, knock down buildings, build new buildings with tiny, small windows, and many other things. He'll destroy our country. Biden says he doesn't know where Trump comes up with these numbers. He says, we have $100 trillion. Give me a break. This plan was endorsed by every major environmental group and every labor group, because they know the future lies with being able to breathe. And the fastest growing industry in America is Pornhub. No, it's solar energy and wind. He just says he thinks Trump thinks that windmills cause cancer. He says they pay $45-$60 an hour. Biden says we can grow. Trump says we're already energy independent. We don't need all these countries to fight wars over because we needed their energy. We're energy independent. I know more about wind, and it's extremely expensive. It kills all the birds. It's very intermittent. It's got a lot of problems. It is. And they make the windmills in Germany and China. The fumes coming up make these massive windmills is more than anything we're talking about with natural gas, which is very clean. He loves solar, but solar doesn't quite have it yet. It's not quite powerful enough yet to run our big, beautiful factories. They do kill birds. Windmills kill birds like crazy. It's terrible. If you want to kill the economy, get rid of your oil industry. And what about fracking? Let me ask him about fracking. Biden just said, I never said I oppose fracking. And Trump says, you said it on tape. So Biden says, put it on your website. He says, would you rule out banning fracking? He says, I do rule out banning fracking because we need other industries to transition to zero emissions by 2025. He would reduce fracking over time. He would make sure they can capture the emissions from the fracking. We can do that by investing money in transition to that. He was against fracking. He said it. He'll show it to you tomorrow. I am against fracking. Then he got the nomination. Went to Pennsylvania. He said, no, what, Pennsylvania? You'll be against it soon. He said he's against fracking on federal land. Okay, final question. People of color are more likely to live near oil refineries and chemical plants. In Texas, people are afraid that it's making them sick. And his plans rolled back regulations. And he says the families we're talking about are employed heavily and making a lot of money, more money than they ever made. If you look at the kind of numbers we produce for Hispanic, Black, Asian, it's 9 times greater, the percentage gained in 3 years than it was under 8 years of Obama and Biden. 9 times more. Somebody lives, he says he's never heard these statistics, but they're making a tremendous amount of money economically. We saved it. We saved it again when oil was crashing. We saved it. We got Saudi Arabia, Mexico, and Russia to cut back, way back. We saved our oil industry, and now it's very vibrant. And everybody has very inexpensive gasoline. He says, those people live on fence lines. Biden says he doesn't understand it. If the chemical plants and oil plants pollute, he used to live near one when he was growing up in Claremont, Delaware. When his mom used to turn on the window when it was cold, there was an oil slick on the window. How do you keep them safe? You have to impose restrictions on the pollution coming out. So he's asking, would you close down the oil industry? He says, I would transition from the oil industry. So yes. He says, oh, it's a big statement. And the other moderator says, why would you do that? He says, because the oil industry pollutes significantly. He says it's got to be replaced by renewable energy over time. He'd stop giving to the oil industry federal subsidies. He won't give federal industry subsidies to solar and wind. Why are we giving it to oil? He says we actually do give it to solar and wind, says Trump. So Trump is basically saying he's going to destroy the oil industry. Will you remember that, Texas? Will you remember that, Pennsylvania? Then they have to get to the final question. Biden says he takes everything out of context. So we're in way overtime here. This was supposed to end 5 minutes ago. The other debate did end on time. Is he going to get China to do it too? Asked Trump. And he's going to rejoin the Paris Accord. First question to President Trump. Imagine this is your inauguration day. What will you say in your address to Americans who did not vote for you? They each have 1 minute. Trump says, we have to make our country totally successful as it was prior to the plague coming in from China. We're rebuilding it. We're doing record numbers, 11.4 million jobs. Before the plague come in, just before, he was getting calls from people who were not normally people that would call him. They wanted to get together. They had the best black unemployment numbers in the history of the country. Hispanic, women, Asian, people with diplomas, with no diplomas, MIT graduates. Everybody had the best numbers. The other side wanted to get together. They wanted to unify. Success is going to bring us together. We are on the road to success. He's cutting taxes, and Biden wants to raise everybody's taxes and put new regulations. He will kill it. If he gets in, he'll have a depression, the likes of which you've never seen. Your 401ks will go to hell, and it'll be a very, very sad day for the country. Same question to Biden. What would you say during your inaugural address to Americans who did not vote for you? Say, I'm an American president. I represent all of you, whether you voted for me or against me. And I'm going to make sure you're represented. I'll give you hope. You're going to move. We're going to choose what over fiction. We're going to choose to move forward, and enormous opportunities to make things better. We can grow this economy. We can deal with systemic racism. And we can make sure our economy is being run and moved and motivated by clean energy, creating millions of new jobs. And that's the fact. That's what we're going to do. And that's what I said. I said at the beginning. What's on the ballot is the character of this country, decency, honor, respect, treating people with dignity, making sure everyone has an even chance. And he'll make sure you get that. You haven't been getting it the last 4 years. She wants to thank everybody for the last hour and a half. President Trump, Joe Biden, thank you to Belmont University. Thank you to those watching. Election day is November 3rd. Don't forget to vote. Come on, I want to see what's going on the stage. God damn it. I gotta go look at the TV. They already cut away. They cut away from the stage.
Oh, yeah.
Sons of bitches.
The commentators have to commentate now.
I want to see what's going on. I want to see them walking off the stage. I want to see whose wife is on the stage wearing a mask. Is anybody still on? I'm going to PBS. I'm on PBS. Son of a bitch. So Biden got the last word. I will admit he answered the last question better than Trump. Trump didn't really answer the question that was asked. But do you believe him? I mean, I guess is the question. That's what it all comes down to anyway. I don't think this debate turned one single person. You knew who you were voting for before you watched this debate, and I'm sure it just cemented whatever you already thought was true about the candidate you were for. What do you think, Jeff?
I'm sorry. I'm distracted.
Oh, no problem. Can you talk for a second?
Sure.
I'll be right back.
Okay. So let's see what's going on in the chat. Bird had to step away for a moment. So let's see. Thomas Pot says lies. Biden will announce his resignation. Yeah, that's an interesting thing that might be happening. We already may have the outline of that happening with Pelosi bringing up that 25th Amendment stuff. And Resolute Germ says solar and wind power just can't cut it, and they don't want nuclear. So Biden is full of shit. Yeah, you're right. Solar and wind power just isn't at the level that can provide what the power needs that we have right now. And not sure why they don't want nuclear. Actually, nuclear is one of the safest methods of producing energy for the masses. So why they don't want that, I don't know. I know it can be dangerous, but nuclear power has gotten a lot safer over the last couple of decades. They've learned from mistakes that have happened, from accidents, and it's actually very safe. Rambling Connect says, my favorite part was when Biden threw Obama under the bus. Vice president this time, I will be the president. Yeah, that was interesting, Rambling. And let's see. I thought it was an interesting debate. Of course, they were tag teaming Trump at times. That was going to happen. You have a liberal moderator. I thought it was interesting having the muting function. I don't know how much it was actually used to stop one candidate from talking.
I think it was only one time. I think Trump got hit with it.
Yeah, I noticed the one time, but I don't know. I thought there were a couple of other times where they might have used it. The candidates had stopped talking like in mid-sentence a few times. So they may have used it more than once, but there was definitely the one time for sure. You're right. And welcome back, Bird.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
No
what I was saying before I cut away was that I think that the debate didn't change a single person's mind, and everybody who, whoever they were voting for, they just cemented their, opinion all that much more of who they were voting for. And Captain MKG says, and I have a donation from Joe Biden, but let me just read this. Please forgive my ignorance, but with regards to nuclear generated energy, are there dangerous byproducts from that process? Yes, there are some dangerous byproducts. There is nuclear waste. Now, they have made some great design improvements in nuclear reactors, including reactors that can shut themselves off safely if, God forbid, power was interrupted or if water was interrupted. It would actually power down naturally with no chance of meltdown. But I guess they're just a little bit more expensive. And since we haven't built a new nuclear plant in a long time, we're not using that design. But it does still produce nuclear waste, which has to be put away somewhere, and then as nuclear, it's dangerous for tens of thousands of years. So it's actually a pretty tough thing. I mean, they just building deep holes in the ground and filling them up with nuclear waste, but eventually, I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of room, but eventually we're gonna just have to put it near someplace that people don't want it. Right now, we bury it in the desert. I don't love nuclear power particularly, but I tell you, the clean gas, there is so much gas produced that they just burn off natural gas. There are oil wells where they don't even collect the natural gas, because it's just too, they don't need it. It's so much gas already. They don't even bother taking the natural gas and just burn the natural gas off as a waste product, which is ridiculously crazy. We should be capturing all the gas, and we could get natural gas prices down to damn near nothing, and we could be powering the whole country off gas. And Joe Biden donated $1, and thank you, Joe Biden. I guess he just finished the debate and he came right over to make the donation. And he said, "Hello, my friend. I did well in my debate with Lincoln. Vote for me because we must go forward, not backward. We must move forward, upward, not forward. And always twirling, twirling, twirling towards freedom. Number 22. Thank you. Thank you, Joe Biden. Yes, he did call Trump Lincoln at one point, which I thought was funny.
Joe, you're on the wrong channel for number 22.
Yeah,
Just saying.
We can do something for Joe. Rambling Canuck says he's running for Senate. He's got the Senate debate next week. Resolute says not really MKG. It's safer than coal. What, the byproduct? I don't think so. I'm not so sure about that. Thomas says every form of energy has negative effects. It does. It does. Like solar, it takes up a hell of a lot of space and it needs to be cleaned. And then it's a very dirty process creating the solar panels, and then they need to be replaced every, I think, 25 years or so. So, Captain MKG says, residue germ, cool beans. I was just wondering, because with nuclear waste, do we have any way that we can recycle that energy? No, we just put it in the ground, which is crazy. Resolute says, misread the comment, Captain. Thought you were referring to the plant safety. Resolute says there is waste products that are a problem. Yeah. The intendant says they didn't ask the most important question. Do Romulans use dilithium? I wanted to hear their opinion on the matter too. I wish they had a segment where the audience could ask a question, but of course they didn't. Cat MKG says, resolute term, no problem. It's still good information, no. And again, I enjoy your conversation, whether it's here or over on Twitter. And Thomas says, was Biden watching The Simpsons? Maybe. Maybe he was. I haven't watched The Simpsons at all this season yet. I'll probably go back and watch them at some point. But hear Carl's new voice.
I used to watch The Simpsons all the time, but I haven't watched it in years, really.
I really kind of gave up when they killed off. Well, not killed off, when they stopped putting Apu and things. I was like, no, goodbye. And they lied. They said that they weren't purposely not using Apu, but then 2 seasons went by without a single line from the guy. Like, okay, they stopped using Apu. You can stop lying to me. But let's see here. What do we got? Here we go for you, Joe Biden. I don't want him to get too excited.
Yeah, you have to cut it off at some point.
Yeah. And I think I'm going to cut it off here for the night because, man, I'm exhausted. Mama Prey's asleep. Sis-O-Prey and Nephew-O-Prey are asleep in the bedroom. And it'll probably be an early morning. So, Jeff, anything you want to say?
Well, I just want to invite everyone to your stream tomorrow. What are you doing tomorrow? Bed Life tomorrow?
Bed Life at like 5 p.m.
5 p.m. And we'll have Cinema Saturday War Games.
Yes.
Looking forward to that.
And I hear Nephew-O-Prey is awake right now, which is not good.
Uh-oh.
Not good. Okay, guys. Thank you all. Captain MKG, Thomas, Resolute Germ, Tiki of Doom, Cinnabon Bunny, obviously Jeff Franklin. Who else we got here? John DeMarco, Thomas Potts, aka Thomas Pitts, and Josh Street. And looks
Got
like
the intendant.
the intendant. Thank you.
Captain Trek was here earlier.
Captain Track.
47 Yorktown.
Very cool. Karoga Knight, I think, was here early too.
Yes, he was. Or
And
she,
I
I'm
want to
not sure.
give, or she. And I would like to give a big thank you to our channel supporters, members, and Subscribe-Star subscribers. If you are a member of the BirdOPrey5 channel, the main channel, or a Subscribe-Star supporter, you should have got an email. I did put up my first content today that was just for members and supporters. It was my first version of the Star Trek Discovery review that I put out this morning. I had a first draft that I couldn't use because I had the background audio of the episode playing. A lot of people think it was a better version, but it's a little shorter than the one I put out. A little bit maybe more passionate, but I had to redo it. So I couldn't use it as my main one, but it's out there. So if you're a member of the channel or a Subscribe-Star, check out the community section, either of YouTube or Subscribe-Star, and you'll see a link to watch the video. This is the first time I put out video specifically for members and Subscribe-Star subscribers. So with that, guys, thank you so much. Know who can stream. Oh, Thomas wants somebody else to stream. A list of crazies, and Thomas, the son of a bitch, he's on the list. Bird, oh no, there's no OnlyFans, Tiki, and the intendant lulls. So good night, all. Qapla, Bird out. Uh-oh, somebody's messaging me. Should I
Oh,
stay
it was
on?
me, Bert. It was me.
Oh, okay. I'm ending that.